So standard deviation, the formula is STDEV. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So for dry fat, you do the standard deviation for this, same thing for this last one. And if you have not taken a statistics class, the standard deviation just talks about, it kind of is a number to describe the spread of the data. So these, I kind of made these so that it's really easy, I think, to see the difference. So for if you look at wet fat up here, the numbers that you have that you're taking the average of are 14, 15, and 16. So it's really easy just to look at this and say, well, the average is obviously 15. And they're only one, each of these is only, the 14 is only a difference of 1 from 15, and so is 16. It's a difference of 1. So that's the standard deviation, tells you how much all of these numbers differ from that average. So it gives you an idea of the variability. So you can see here for that group that standard deviation is tiny, it's just 1. But say for this one over here, dry fat, the numbers are much more variable. So the average is 88, but you see these numbers, 100 is much more different than 88, and than like 14 is from 15. So that's what these numbers are telling us. It just gives us an idea of the variability. So the quick, if you wanted to do a really quick and honestly kind of an ugly graph, you could just highlight all of these 3 columns, and you can choose your column graph up here. So this is not the absolute newest version of Excel. This is the second to newest version. I think it's 2010, maybe 13. I don't remember. There's only a couple of little times that there's the very newest version will differ in important ways, and I'll just point. It's really easy. I'll just point out what you look for. But in general, these look the same. You're going to choose your on your insert tab. You choose your column graph, and this is just your bar graph. So in the default, you see it sets it up. It's kind of redundant. It says like wet fat, wet protein, dry fat, dry protein, and of course this is really redundant. This tells us nothing. The series, but this is just kind of generally ugly. It's not very professional looking, and anytime you have redundancies, in general, you want to try to remove those somehow. So the way we're going to remove these is we're going to set this up so that it's a dual level, so you can really quickly compare what is wet to dry and what is protein to fat, because those are really possibly two different questions. So to edit this, you can right click. To edit a lot of these things, you just select whatever your item is that you want to edit. If I want to edit the data, then I want to click the bars, and you can right click, and you can get to this other ways, but I just like to right click, it's faster. So you format the data series. Oops, sorry, not the data series, I always do that. Select your data, and this is where you're going to insert your data series. So right now it just has all of these listed as one series. It's wet fat, wet protein, whatever. So I'm just going to remove that and start over. So if I hit add series, and I can click this here to select the name that I want, or you can just write it in there. So if I say wet, great. So I got that as wet. So the 2 that are wet are these 2, and you're going to plot the averages. Okay, so now I want to add the dry series. And these are the numbers for dry. Beautiful. So right now we have a legend going. That looks great. It doesn't say right here what these, this is 1 and 2. It doesn't tell us what these things are. So I need to edit that. And these are both the same. So if you have this organized properly, then this should be really easy. So both of these are in order, fat, protein, fat, protein. That's the way that I entered the data. So all I have to do is just for one of these is highlight fat, protein. And you just have to highlight it once. And now you should have your axes labeled. Perfect. So even before I'm going to do the error bars really fast, I'm just going to go ahead and like make this bigger, something that's more appropriate for what I'm going to see on the PowerPoint, and do things like click these stupid bars here and just get rid of those. That's really, really distracting. And move this, move this over where we're going to be able to see it. So we can stretch this out. We want the graph to fill up the space. And we need to make room over here for an axis. there's no, or an axis title. And this is also going to need to be changed. So I'm going to click this. This is all really fast. If you just do it really fast, it's no big deal. You don't want to go any smaller than 16 font for anything that's going to be on PowerPoint. So I just did 16 on that. You can make it bold if you think it'll be easier to read. Same thing with these. Just click each item and change the font size. Cool. So now we just need to add an axis here, and then we'll add the error bars, and then we're done. So when you click this graph, so if I click over here, you notice this, there was no chart options up here in the top. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse swirling. But if when I select the graph, now I have these options for chart tools. In the brand new version of Excel, you only have 2 tabs to choose from, but they're pretty much the same though. You still want to go to the design tab in either case. And in your design tab in the very newest version, there'll be an item over here. It says add chart element, and that's where you're going to want to add your like axes and stuff. In this one, you go to layout. So there is no option for layout in the very new version. So you just check out both these tabs. It should be fairly obvious where where to find stuff. But you are looking for your axis title. So you need this rotated vertical axis right here. And then you can just click it a couple times. You can highlight it. And what do we have? Number of ants. Actually, we should be specific. We should say average number of ants. And if you click the whole box, so I click the whole box, and if the whole box is highlighted, then I can just do the same thing, add 16. Now it's nice and big and pretty. Cool. And so the very last thing was we need to add the error bars. So again, like I said, whatever you're trying to edit, highlight that aspect that you're trying to edit. And it's cool about what's nice about Excel is if you are kind of playing around with your stuff, just if you click the bars, you'll notice over here it highlights for you exactly what data and titles it's selecting. So if you did make a mistake or something, you can actually, you can move these around, and it kind of helps you out a little bit, but just as an aside. All right, so I'm going to click the blue bar, and so see it's highlighting. These are the two. It's the wet series. So these are the 2 standard deviations over here that I want to use for the error bars. So you can actually, let's use the top. So if you go back to layout in this older version, or you go back to design on the newer version, and remember if you have the newest version, if you go to design, then you'll look over on this side and there's an option for add chart elements, and you just drag down in the options and you'll see error bars. In here, the error bar option is on layout. And so you can click any of these just to get something on the screen that you can edit. But you'll see this is so silly. So if you say standard deviation, you see that's obviously not correct. It's like so far off, it's kind of ridiculous. I'm not even sure where they get these numbers, but this is not 1 and this is not 5. So again, I select whatever you want to edit. So we're editing the error bars, so I select that. And then format the error bars. I right-click and format the error bars. So when you right-click it, you can say custom, and you want to specify the value. And this is why we already have these calculated for us. So you're going to have the same value. The standard deviation is going to go as both positive and the negative. So you just click over here and just highlight both of them. If you highlight just one, if I just highlight this, then it's going to apply the same standard deviation to both of the bars. So you can highlight both and do the same thing for both the positive and the negative. And I just highlight and I hit enter. If you start clicking everywhere else, then it might mess something up. So I highlight, I let go, and I hit enter, and then it should be fine. Say OK. And you can see those are more appropriately sized error bars. That actually looks like 1. And this looks like it's plus or minus 5. Perfect. So do the same thing on this other one. Let me go ahead and close those. Same thing. We need to do the same thing on this on the other bars. So go ahead and add these incorrect error bars. So then you have something to edit. Right click, format, custom. So yeah, as long as you have your data set up and it's ordered and it's sorted, then this is really fast. If it's not sorted, then you really should take the time to sort it first, rather than trying to click on these isolated things and keeping track of what you're dragging. So these look right also. This looks like about plus or minus 12. This looks like about plus or minus 10. Yeah. So this all looks good. So yeah, that's as far as you have to go on this. Again, you need to, you can make this a little bit prettier if you wanted to. You can adjust the font size if you think this is not quite big enough. What you would want to do just to make sure that that's correct, if you highlight the entire graph where the entire thing is outlined, and you can Control C it, and then you open up your PowerPoint, and if you right click to paste it, you can paste it as a picture. And then you don't have to worry about, resizing and doing things. It'll resize everything together. If you paste it as a regular item, though, now you can actually adjust the individual items. So it just depends on if you already know that it's like exactly the way you want it. But if you do it this way, you see it, it can get things kind of jumbled up. But it also allows you the flexibility to go ahead here and edit individual items, so it just depends on if you're ready to go for that. And then the only last thing you have to do for anytime you have a graph is have a figure caption. So you're just going to want to insert a text box down here and say figure 1 of the effects of moisture and nutrients. Is it nutrient type? Yeah, let's say nutrient. Nutrients on food preference in ants. I don't know what species it was. If you actually know what species it was, I'm going to say like fire ant. And then what last thing you want to do is you want to tell us what these error bars are, because there's other things. You could have done the variance. You could have done all kinds of other statistical standard error. So here we did error bars. Indicate that it's a standard deviation. Oops, type on the computer. So you can just say plus minus 1 standard deviation. The abbreviation is always ST. You could write it out, but it's usually like it looks nicer and more professional if you just put ST. If you want to make it even look more professional, then instead of writing plus minus, you can go to insert and you can say symbol, and you can select under you can select, mine's under recently used, I'm not sure, it should be pretty, it's pretty close to the top, the plus minus symbol, and see, that looks nice and crisp, and it doesn't take up as much room, and you can just say that. But now I'm just going to go over here, and that just looks beautiful. So yeah, you're pretty much done at that point. And again, this is only something you have to do with the error bars. You only need to put error bars that's the standard deviation on something that you have in average.